Charlie Brown turns 75 this year, and to celebrate, we are creating some great pumpkin projects. And of course, these are dupes, so they are easy and very budget friendly. Thank you guys for stopping by Lavender and Lace. I'm Alicia. Welcome back to my viewers that come and see me each week. And hello if you are new here. Please give today's video a thumbs up if you enjoy these projects. And without further ado, let's get started. You can find a set of Great Pumpkin coasters on Pottery Barn. You get 4 of these for $24.50, or you can dupe them using items from the Dollar Tree and probably things that you may already have on hand. You can find these ceramic coasters at Dollar Tree, and sometimes you can find the ones that are already blank that don't have a design. I just wasn't able to when I was picking these up for this project. So I do try to find ones that don't have any raised design on the front, like where you can feel the ink or anything that's rough on your fingers. So you just want to remove the plastic from these, of course. And I did 2 coats of my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster just to get these ready for the next step in this process. And then I just put a thin layer of Mod Podge on each of these and let that dry completely. And this technique you could do for any kind of design, any season, holiday, whatever you want. These are super easy to do, and you can customize them to match your decor or anything like that. I used some washi tape just to attach a piece of tissue paper to some printer paper. And when you do this, you want to make sure that you print on the matte side of the tissue paper and not the shiny side. And I do like to let these designs dry for at least 30 minutes. If I have the time, I like to let them dry for a few hours or even overnight. That will just keep all of your ink from bleeding when you move on in this project. You just want to remove your tissue paper designs from that computer paper. And you just want to cut out your image that you are working with. I do leave a little bit of the tissue paper around the design. And I did actually create these a little bit larger than the coasters because I wanted a little bit of that hangover, just so I could use a fingernail file just to remove that excess, and you get a nice clean finish that way. And I just did a search on Google to look for these images. You can also find ones on Etsy that you can purchase. But these, since I am just using all of these coasters for personal use, I just downloaded the images that I liked and then just uploaded those into Canva and created a flyer and printed all of these out. And now that my Mod Podge is dry, I just heated my little Cricut mini press and added my image to the top of each coaster and just used a Teflon sheet to protect that and iron that on. This heat just reactivates that Mod Podge, and your tissue paper will apply really well to your coaster. You won't have any wrinkles or bubbles. And of course, I just repeated that for all of my coasters that I am making. And like I mentioned, I just used my fingernail file just to file off any of that excess around all of the edges on my coasters. And to seal in my tissue paper, I used my glossy Mod Podge. I wanted these to have that shiny finish on them, and I did a couple of coats of that. I let that dry completely after that first coat and then just applied a second coat. And I was able to create a set of these coasters for $6, so that is a 75% savings for this project. And this is just a super easy way that you can change out your coasters for each season. Let me know what you guys think about this project. I found these really cute peanuts candles on Goose Creek Candle Company website, and I wanted to dupe these. Of course, they are on sale right now for $12, so that's not terribly expensive, but I knew I could make these a little bit cheaper using items from Dollar Tree and Walmart. So I already had a candle on hand in my stash. It's one that I had bought last year and I just haven't used. You could also pick up the larger ones at Walmart as well, and I think those are $4. This one I think was about $2. So of course I wanted to remove that label from the front of this one, and I just used my heat gun to do that. I tried to not get that too close to my candle and melt that wax, and once I had that adhesive just loosened up with that heat, I just easily removed that with my little spatula. And to create my sticker labels for my candle, I just went into Canva and put in the size that I would need to go on the front of my candle that I am using. Of course, if you're using a larger one, you will want to size your label accordingly, and you can also do labels that wrap around your entire candle if you want to do that. And I did go ahead and create just a full sheet of these labels because you can use these just as stickers and not put them on a candle if you don't want to. And again, I just used some of those same designs that I had found on Google that I just uploaded into Canva and just put those in for my stickers. And when you are creating a dupe, you want to make sure that your product looks exactly or almost as identical as you can get to your inspiration product. So the candles that I had found on Goose Creek had the peanuts on each of the designs on their candles. So I just typed that in and found a text that looks similar to that and just changed the color and added that to each of my designs. And once I was happy with everything, I just sent my labels to my printer, and this is just some printable sticker paper. I always have this on hand. I create labels for my salves and things like that that I make. So I printed those out, just let that ink dry for a little while, and then I just cut out each of my designs and got those ready to go on my candle. And this backing just peels off easily, and you just place that wherever you want it on your candle. And this is so easy and quick, and this one is a really fun project, and this will be something fun that you could do with your kiddos and just adds a really cute touch of nostalgia for me in my home decor. Pottery Barn also had a set of these 4 appetizer plates, and these are $60. So I wanted to try something new to achieve the look of these. So I found these plates at Dollar Tree, and I thought these would be my best bet for this project. They were already white, so that saves me a step in this process, and they also don't have a lot of ridges or anything like that in the center. Sometimes you will find some that have just a raised center portion, so I didn't want that, of course, for this project. I just removed all of the labels, and I also measured these to make sure I had the correct size for my design. And I cleaned these as well just to remove any lint or dirt or anything like that on the surface before I printed out the design for these. And I am using the same designs throughout all of these projects. That was just easier for me to do, and it also just makes sure everything coordinates. So I just put in 8-inch circles, and I did this in Canva as well, and just added one of those. It's the Great Pumpkin designs to each of those. And I tried a new product for this project. I used some water slide paper, and I will have that linked for you guys in the description box. I know that's not a new product, but it is new to me. I have never worked with it before. And once I had all of my designs printed, I did let those dry, and then I did 3 coats of my clear acrylic sealer. I do wish I had the glossy finish in that instead of the matte. I think that would have turned out better for this project, but I was just using what I had on hand and trying to be frugal and not spend a lot of money on these projects. So once I had these sealed, I did just cut all of those out, and you do want to leave just a little bit of that white showing around the edge of your design. The instructions said to do that, and of course before I did all of these steps, I read my instructions completely since this was new to me. So once I had all of my designs cut out, I started applying them to my plates. You want to make sure that you have a little bit of water on whatever surface that you are working with. So I sprayed some water on my plates, and then I completely submerged my image in some water, and you do want to let that sit for about 10 seconds. And after it has been in the water for 10 seconds, you want to remove that and take it out of the water and let that sit for another 10 seconds. This just allows your design to kind of loosen up and start peeling away from that backing paper. And before you apply it, you do want to kind of slide your design off of that backing paper just to see if it is going to move the way you need it to. If not, you would put it back in your water and just repeat that step. But mine worked out really well the first time, so I just placed that onto the center of my plate and just carefully held that down with my left hand while I pulled out that backing sheet with my right hand, and I very, very gently pressed out any of those wrinkles or bubbles, and I did use a dry washcloth just to help remove some of that water from my design. I did have some wrinkles and things in my image, so I want to keep working with this water slide paper and applying it to different things and kind of improving and perfecting my technique. But I had a lot of fun with this process, and I love these designs. We love the Great Pumpkin around here. My kids are both teenagers, but we still watch that every year. That's just one of our traditions that we have. And I just repeated all of those steps with all of my other plates. And the instructions say that you will want to let these dry completely for at least 3 hours, and then I will be sealing these with some glossy Mod Podge. I just did not have the time to do that before this video went live, but that is it for this project. I love how easy it was to just print these designs on that water slide paper and recreate this for a fraction of the price. This project is a recreation of something I had when I was a kid, so I guess you could say it's a granny dupe. She made this for me when I was little, and it is something that I had for Halloween. It was a trick-or-treat bag, and I still have it somewhere. I just wasn't able to find it. I wanted to show you guys a picture, but my kids used it as well, and I wanted to make a couple of these to give to some of the younger kids in our family now, since Granny isn't here anymore, to make them one. So I just picked up a couple of coordinating fabrics, and I got these both from Etsy. I will link those shops for you guys, and you can check out these fabrics for yourself. So I just started by removing that selvage edge from each piece of my fabric. I don't want that in my finished product, so I just removed that, and this gives me also a nice straight edge. And I will put up all of the sizes that you need for each of your fabric pieces here. And I was able to make 2 bags from these 2 pieces of fabric. And you'll also need some lining fabric as well. I just didn't have to purchase that. I had some things in my stash that I just pulled from to use as the lining pieces. But you will need 2 pieces of your main fabric, and then you will also need just 1 piece of your coordinating fabric. I wanted this to have that two-tone look on the front of my bags. And when I'm working with fabric, I love to use this acrylic ruler as well as my rotary cutter. I just get nice clean cuts with that and straight edges as long as I don't move my ruler. Sometimes I do that and my projects aren't completely even. And I did watch a couple of videos on YouTube before I did this project kind of my way. I will link those for you guys as well. They give a little bit more detailed and better instructions than I do. This was a new project for me. I haven't done this before, and I don't sew as much as I would like to, so I kind of just had to fit things together and kind of figure this out as I went. I just used one of my main pieces of fabric to cut down that coordinating piece that I wanted to go on the front of this bag. I just used that as a template and cut out my orange piece. And I also used the back piece of this bag to cut out my lining fabric. And this is just a fat quarter that I had in my stash from Walmart. I like to pick those up in a variety of different colors and just have those on hand for different projects. Whenever that sewing bug bites, I like to sew, seems like more in the fall and the winter time. I don't know what it is about fabric projects, but they're just very comforting and cozy to me in the cooler months. And right now my sewing machine table is actually cleaned off, so I could get this project put together fairly quickly. And I like to use these binder clips just to attach my fabric pieces together. And I just put that right sides together with that main piece of fabric and my coordinating orange piece. And I just sewed those together. And you will want to allow for your seam allowance when you are cutting that backing piece. So I think all of my measurements are correct that I put up for you guys. You just want to make sure that you double check everything before you stitch it together. So here's what my front piece looks like, and I did go ahead and iron that seam on the front just so that would be finished nicely and would lay flat. And this is where I started building my little drawstring bag. For that first piece, you want the pretty side facing down, and then for the outer pieces of your fabric, they will be pretty sides together. So that first piece, you can see the design facing up. Then your second piece of that outer fabric will be facing down, and then you will add your last piece of lining fabric with the pretty side up. I hope all of that makes sense. It took me a little while to figure out how to get everything placed, so once I have this sewed together and flip that right side out, that everything would be in the right place. And once again, I am just using those binder clips to attach all of my fabric pieces together, and I just take that to my sewing machine and sew around all 3 of those edges. So here is where I messed up a little bit, you guys. So do as I say, not as I do. I should not have sewed all the way around those edges first. I needed to leave a gap so I would have a channel for my drawstring to go through. So thankfully, I did not sew all the way to the ends of my bag, so I was able to go in on the top, and I did add a pin about a ½ inch down from the top, and I sewed from the very top portion of my bag to that pin and just made sure that I secured that in place. And this just allowed me to fold down my fabric and iron that down on the top, and you can see there that it leaves an opening on either side that I will be able to run my twill tape through just to make my drawstring so this bag will close together. And I did want to sew that seam down, so I just used some straight pins and pinned that down. And I just took that back to my sewing machine and sewed that down all the way around the edge. I tried to keep my stitch as close to that edge as possible, and if you want this to look a little bit neater and more finished on the inside, you'll want to fold that down first. Just do a small little fold and then fold it once again, just to have all of those raw edges covered up. I hope that makes sense. Again, just check out those other sewing tutorials that I will link for you guys in the description box. But I still think this one is looking really cute. And I always like to trim off those corners when I turn any project like this. It just makes it turn a little bit easier and you have a nicer look to your finished bag. So just turn everything right side out and just poke out all of those corners. And I did opt to do a lining on these bags just to reinforce them and make them a little bit sturdier. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. And if you did leave out that lining, you could probably just use some fabric glue to get this project together. But since I did have those 4 layers, I opted to use my sewing machine for this project. And there's what they look like so far. I did a larger one and then a medium-sized bag. And I picked up this twill tape at Hobby Lobby. I got 2 rolls of white and I also picked up some black. But just to get that twill tape run through my channels. And you probably heard Zoe squeaking her toy in the background. Sorry about that, you guys. She likes to play. But to get your twill tape run through your channel for the drawstring, you will want to use a safety pin and just pin that on the end before you start running that through. And then you can kind of just pinch and pull your fabric together and pull that twill tape all the way through your bag. And with that first piece, you want to go all the way around and come out on the same side that you went in at. And you just want to make sure that you have a long enough piece that you can knot this and secure that on that one side before you add your second piece of twill tape. This will close with 1 drawstring, but it works better if you have 2. So for that second drawstring, you will want to start on the opposite side from that first one that you already have in place. Just do the same steps as before. Just attach your safety pin and just push and pull that all the way through until you come out again on that same side. Just knot your twill tape and your drawstring bag is ready to go. I love these. These are so cute, and it definitely takes me back to my childhood and trick-or-treating on Halloween.
Trick or treat!
I hope you enjoyed these projects today. Please let me know which one is your favorite in the comments, and I would also love to know, do you watch It's the Great Pumpkin every year in the fall? Please give today's video a thumbs up, and I hope you will consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Here's some more videos that you might enjoy. Have a blessed day, and I will see you in the next one.